Good to see you all again. Some things change and some things don't. So I know some of you have heard this before, but maybe we can take it to a level or a depth that will give you some clarity and some questions. I don't know if our lights are always helpful, but let's talk about the groups of employees that you hire. Because you have many different classifications of employees at each school, and how you go about searching for those people and processing the openings varies depending on who it is. You have the 12-month salaried people, and those people have to meet the Federal Labor Standards Act to be salaried, okay? Then you have 12-month hourly people. Those are staff support, custodial, maintenance people paid by the hour. Then you have the 220-day school administrators. They're work agreement people, know how they fit. Your teachers, 190 days. Again, you have a work agreement. And by FLSA standards, all teachers are salaried. And I get questions about, well, what about the teacher who only teaches Spanish and teaches 3 days a week? They have a work agreement. That person has clarity in the job that he or she is a qualified teacher. That person is salaried for the hours and the salary you assign to that position. And then you have the other group that gives us such consternation, the hourly 10-month employee. Those are paraprofessionals, teachers' aides, classroom assistants. I don't care what you call them. They have to be hourly. And unfortunately, it doesn't matter if they have a degree or if they have 5 degrees. If the work the person does fits into this category, the person must be hourly. And I think we're almost all there. In fact, I'd like to believe we are all there. All right, now you have openings. Somebody's leaving, somebody's moving, you've made changes. How do I do the employment process? Take a little time and plan out what you're doing. I still have people call me, and not just from here, but I mean colleagues that say, can you still get a classified ad in the local newspaper? And the answer is, nope, not really, okay? The old ways of reaching out to find people are very, very different today than they used to be. But before you can reach out, you need to have a job description. What are you asking the person to do? You should have a job description for every position at your school, but take it out and read it. Inevitably, it's changed. From one year to the next, they change. Oh yeah, we're going to do this year, and Joe can do it. Or yeah, I remember when we added that to this job description. So look at it, make the changes, make sure it's what you want to say. Now, 2 parts to every job description. 2 parts. Job duties. What's the person going to do? And I know you know this. I'm not talking to you like your children. But just remember, job duties and then job qualifications. What am I looking for? What are the requirements that I want this person to have? Be somewhat realistic about what you're asking for, okay? If you're asking for a custodian, don't worry about whether they can operate your computer at a high level. What is the work that they're going to do? And then do the qualifications match the work? You really don't want a PhD mopping your floors. Not going to work. So think about what you're asking for. Make your updates, then write your ad. Or call me and I'll help you, which I do all the time. Sometimes just send me the job description and say, make it sound good. Make it sound like someone will answer. I've written more custodial job descriptions and ads than you can believe. They're the hardest ones to fill many, many times. Be prepared to give applicants that you talk to a copy of the job description. Hand it to them. Don't be afraid. Give them a copy. Give them a paper copy. Let them take it home. Let them show the spouse, their best friend. It doesn't matter. It's not confidential. This is the work you're being asked to do if you take this job. Clarity is key. And we still get people in Pastoral Center, and I'm sure it happens to you, that after about 2 or 3 weeks, they come and say, wait a minute, nobody ever told me I was going to do this. Well, yeah, we did, but they have a copy. It makes it clearer. Okay, you did all that. Did all your groundwork, foundations ready to go. Where are you going to find the people? Well, when it comes to teachers and school administrators, I really don't worry much about any of you. I think you know how to do that, and you know where your reach is. It's all online these days. CatholicJobs.com is my favorite site. It costs a little bit to run an ad, not much. I think it's $50. People all over the country look at those ads. And I've gotten responses from people in our diocese to a CatholicJobs.com ad when I would never have found them any other way. Good Catholic employees are looking at that site, and they have sections for education, for teachers, for every level of employee you could possibly want. Look at your school website. You should have a jobs opening page on your school website. Send it to me, and we will put it on the diocesan website. We have a job opening page, but you don't have to come through me. You can put, the job will say, if you are interested, send your information to Lynn Brown. Send your information to Dr. Merman. It will forward everything directly to you, but you would be maybe a little surprised at the people who look at the diocesan website for jobs within the diocese. Just like they go to Atlanta and they go to Charleston. So our website is heavily trafficked. You've got your professional Catholic teachers organizations. You're going to post there. Local, regional college recruitment, don't ignore that. Check with your local colleges. I think every community where we have a Catholic school has a college. When do they have career day? When do you get to go campus visits? Especially when you have openings for beginning teachers. And if you have paraprofessional openings, sometimes those are attractive to young people coming right out of college who have no work experience in the classroom. Might very well be open. Don't assume someone's not open to some of the other options that are available to them. I would visit college campus every year and gather information about students who are interested in working in a Catholic school, and hopefully they are also Catholic. Parish bulletins. Parish bulletins. I've become such a believer in parish bulletins because it's not necessarily the person in the pew that's going to apply, but when I get responses from people who are from a parish ad, it's usually, my aunt read it in the bulletin and called me. My mother sent me the ad from the bulletin. I mean, you've got recruiters out there in the pews. And they're Catholic, and hopefully their family members are as well. So use your parish bulletin. Now, be a little judicious. Don't put salary in, don't put some things in that might be problematic because you're talking to a community that knows you. So, if it's a position you haven't opened yet, that's another story. I have an opening for an assistant principal. Oh, by the way, I haven't told the assistant principal they're not coming back. Not a good idea, right? So be very judicious about that. So that covers your professional teachers, that level employee. What about all the rest? the secretary, the bookkeeper, the maintenance person, the receptionist at the front desk at your school. School and parish website, same thing. Diocesan website, sure. Don't assume because it's an hourly position that no one's going to go to the diocesan website. Yes, they will. There are a lot of transient families, people moving here and there and everywhere. And I get calls, we're moving to Savannah, we're moving to Macon, we're moving to Warner Robins. They call the diocese because they don't know how to do it, how to get their name to where they want to go. Again, no better place than the parish bulletin, especially at that level. You will get lots of responses. And we have Southern Cross. I would say we always have. We do have Southern Cross. And the newspaper is delivered to every Catholic home in the diocese. So, take advantage of that. Yes, you have to pay, but, if you really want someone particular and you want a particular reach, invest some money in Southern Cross as well. And again, not necessarily that the person who's reading the ad is sending the resume, but again, you're expanding your group of recruiters, family members and people who are reading and sending the message out to someone they know, a neighbor. I have a neighbor next door, just moved in, they're looking for work. Oh my gosh, there's an ad in Southern Cross. I'll tell them about it. So keep that in mind. Expand your recruitment options. Now, this is where I really, that was all stuff I want you to think about this stuff now that we're going into. Because again, the world of recruitment and employment is ever changing. Just like everything in the world, technology is the driver in this whole situation. You want a resume no matter what position it is. Well, the guy is going to do the groundwork. They have a work history. They may not have the resume formatted the way teachers might read, but you'll get something that says, I worked here, and this is what I did. Ask for a resume. Always require at least 3 business/work references. Honestly, I don't care about personal references, and neither should you, because if someone gives me a personal reference who talks badly about him, I'd really worry. Okay? The people that they put on there are all going to say they're wonderful, but you want some references from where they are working now or where they have worked, and you can kind of work that. Even though that person may be positive, you can kind of dig into more about the work history if you have that. You want to work history. Where'd you work? What'd you do? When did you do it? Boom, 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 boom. Years work service. A list of skills. What can you do? You operate certain kinds of equipment. You have certain computer technology. You know how to do page layout. You know how to do typeset pages or promotional materials, that kind of thing. You want to know if they're Catholic or not? And these are things you'll tuck in your ad and you're going to ask for in the resume. When you respond, these are the things you need to tell me. I will tell you that Catholic or not is really shot in the dark, because people don't know whether they're Catholic or not. Seriously. They come to see me and they will have checked, I am Catholic, and I've learned to ask lots of questions in a very nice, open way. And sometimes it's things like, I mentioned in the ad this position needs to be filled by someone who is Catholic because we need an understanding of the faith. So tell me about your Catholic experience. And honestly, more times than not I get, I was baptized. Good. I was confirmed. Good. Where do you go now? What parish do you attend? I don't really go to church now. I go with my husband to the Baptist church, or you have to kind of navigate what people are saying to you and what they're interpreting that to mean. And it's more and more common that there is some ancillary information about the faith, or as this person was raised, there was faith involved, and the church was involved, or they even refer to their parents, oh, my mom is really active in St. Ignatius. Well, but what are you doing? So you got to figure it out, and that may be fine, but at least you know what you're getting into. Just don't assume that yes is a yes. And of course, for teachers, and especially for teachers and administrators and people in the classroom, you want to have a conversation about their philosophy on Catholic education. What is it about Catholic education that appeals to you? Why do you want to work in a Catholic school? Why are you leaving public education to come to Catholic education? What's the driver? What appeals to you? Find out, because it's a huge transition. Several of you have transitioned through public school and into Catholic school, so you know it's a different world there and here. Some good, just change. So it's what do you want and what do you need? And that's what I'm trying to get you to think about. I want all these things. What do I need to make this job work? And you have to decide. Not everything is going to be exactly the same for every position. You need a Spanish teacher. You need someone who speaks fluent Spanish, can teach Spanish. You're going to have to look at that list and determine what is the most valuable resource. She's active in the Baptist church and she understands and believes in Jesus Christ, and she can speak Spanish and teach Spanish. That may be the person you need, not a Catholic in that case. All right. Selling your position and selling your opening. When you write your ad, make sure that it clearly states the job duties and responsibilities. Require the applicant to mail a resume and a cover letter. By the way, cover letters have gone the way of dinosaurs. You get an email. That's it. You want a cover letter because that's where the person sells himself to you, right? That's when you find out what they're about. So now you have to say it right up front. Send a resume with a cover letter, because you have to think about it. You also get a chance to see how well they write, because most people are not doing their own resumes today. They're not being done by themselves, trust me. At every level, they farm it out. Or there's a app you can buy and you plug in the information and it ships it out. The other thing that is problematic is Indeed, which is the employment search, okay? I've used Indeed when I've been desperate, and I get a gazillion resumes. I know, she's shaking her head. Trust me, it's like, oh, okay, I'm gonna do this because I know what's gonna happen. And people who have signed up on Indeed, they get flash, their stuff just goes out automatically. They have key highlights. That job that was just posted looks like what this person said they wanted, bingo, off their resume goes. Sometimes the person doesn't even know they've applied for the job. It happens electronically. So it's a great gatherer of volume. If you really just want to see how many people out there could do what you're looking for. And it helps, like when I'm looking for a marketing and events person, that's one of those drag the net through the ocean and see how many you get and then sort them out. That works. But in most cases, it's hardly worth the agony of what you have to filter through to find something that's usable. All right. In that letter, you want to look for why he or she is applying. And here's where you want the applicant to write his or her philosophy of Catholic education. And you can, if it's an ad for a teacher or an administrator, you can put that in the ad with what how to respond. Resume, cover letter, explaining this. Okay. Don't be frugal with the words in the ad, because it will save you time sorting through. And then we get into the legal issue of what happens when all these things come flying across your desk. You do not respond to every resume you get. Just let them come on in. Read them, stick them in the trash, put them in a pile, sort them, share them, whatever you want to do with them, but do not acknowledge or respond to resumes in bulk. Just don't. And people will call you. I just want to know if you got my resume. Yes, thank you. Well, yes, thank you. We will be reviewing, and this is my standard line, we will be reviewing resumes and reaching out to those candidates who most nearly match our needs. End of story. Don't get in a commitment page with them, please. Oh, Carrie Jane's going to send all this to you. I saw you do it. I'm sorry. She's going to email the presentation to you. I should have said that up front. I apologize. You don't want to have to explain who you're looking for. So stay away from it. Select the applicants that feel like they're a good fit for you. Pull your little pile, okay? As many as it takes, but make that pile that you think these all look pretty good. I think they've got a lot of things I'm looking for. Now, those are the only people you contact, okay? And you're going to let them know they're being considered. Thank you for applying. You can do it all by email. Pigeon mail does not exist in the employment world anymore. It's all email. There's nothing illegal about it. There's nothing immoral about it. It's fast. And people don't want to get anything any other way anyway. So you're going to email them, the person, and in your pile, thank you for your resume, thank you for your response. Put the job in there, because some people don't know which job you're referring to because they've sent out 100 to 100 openings. Thank you for your interest in teaching at Blessed Sacrament School. We are considering you. Attached to this email is a formal application. Attach the 2-page diocesan job application. It's pretty useless in terms of how much it will give you, because you already should have everything you need on the resume. But what it does give you is a release at the bottom of the application, where the person signs it and says, I understand you're going to be checking references and you're going to be looking into my history. And it has some questions in there that can be asked about arrest record, and it does ask, are you Catholic? And some of those more ticky questions that may not appear on a resume. Send the application and ask for it by return email. Because once they've signed the application, you are free to reach out to their references and talk to the people they've worked with and see what they say about their work. Okay. Do not skip this part no matter what, because this is the part I sometimes want to skip. I'm assuming you may be as like I am when you get into the time crunch. Contact not only the names that the applicant has submitted, but dig through that employment file they've sent you, their employment history, and call a couple of former employers. Now, most won't tell you anything except, yes, they worked here net. What is the key question? You all know it. You've heard it 100 years. Is so-and-so eligible for rehire? They have to be honest with you about that question. They won't have to give you any detail. But if someone says, no, junk, that's it, I'm not interested, but if you're not going to rehire them, I don't want to know about it. Listen for the unsaid things. And that's where you get dope. You get real scoops from people who worked with them. Well, let me tell you. Well, they were always kind of trying to get a group of us together to do something, Never seemed happy with the way things were being run at the school. Yeah, little stuff like that tells you a lot about a person. Please call me if anyone has ever worked for a parish or a school. Don't hesitate, don't wait, call me, and I will talk to wherever that person was employed, and I'll go through their personnel file to make sure there is nothing that would be problematic if the person shows up working for your school. It's really, really, really important. If you let somebody go who worked for St. Peter Claver for a very good reason, and 3 years later, that person goes to work at Sacred Heart in Warner Robins, you have real reasons you let them go. Al had no idea. Person says, oh yeah, I loved working for Sister Cheryl. You know, I had to leave because my husband got relocated and we're back in the area. Okay. Now there's more to this story. Check it out. I'm not going to give it away. I'm not going to say, oh, guess what they said. No, but we're going to have an honest dialogue. If there's a problem, which may not appear in Warner Robins, you know, sometimes people change, but at least you know what you're getting when you hire someone and what kind of relationship that person had at the parish or school. Don't schedule an interview until all the reference checks are completed, because you may not want to interview this person. Remember, you haven't promised. You said you're being considered. Be careful. Don't make promises you can't keep, because at this stage in the game, you may be looking at that resume that you pulled out and you send an email to and you got an application back going, well, really, no. I don't want to talk to this person. I don't want to waste my time. I don't want to waste their time. So if you've never promised, you've never committed, you're okay. All right. Then you have to do the interview and background check. Sometimes we get things a little out of sequence. Do the interview. Be very clear during the one-on-one interview that no job offer can be made until a background check is complete. And it's the diocese. Blame the diocese. It's not you. The diocese is the big office. The diocese does not allow job offers until background checks are completed and returned. Yes?
To clarify, this is the Fast Tracks one that Joan does?
Pardon me?
The Fast Track one that Joan does, right? The background
Right,
check?
that's
Okay.
correct. You also have the state one you have to do. Don't you have to do something for teachers, fingerprinting? And
Yes.
All right. You want both. You want both. But especially the one Joan does. And for teachers and school personnel, the one Joan does is a ratchet above what she does for just volunteers and things. So, I mean, she will get stuff that you may not even get out of the state because they do a national search. So the person needs to know up front, here is the background check form release. I need you to complete this, sign it, give it back to me. Once everything is done, then I will be back with you. And you are committed to getting back to them at that point. You have to keep them in the loop. But have them sign the authorization and hand it back to you. You can email it to Joan, and it takes about 2 days in most cases to get the detail you're going to be looking for. So get it back to her and wait for the report before you make a job offer. And I've had people say, well, I made the job offer contingent on the background check being completed and everything being fine. Well, okay, but you know how tough it is to have to sit down with someone and say, you know that job offer I made you? Well, no. I'm aware that you were arrested when you were a senior in college for cocaine, and I just don't think we can have you in the classroom. Then you get into all that, guilt and why I did it and I'm okay now and how can you hold that against me? You don't want to do all that. Don't make the job offer and I get it. I mean, it's easy for me to stand here and say that, thou shalt not, don't do that. But I understand the time constraints. You got to get somebody in the classroom. You got to fill a position. Got to work. But in the end, it's so much harder on all of you when you have to, and Joan gets involved and I get involved and, the applicant calls us and says, how can you hold it against me? And we're all the bad guys. We really are that way. All right, now you've got everything. You're good to go. You're going to extend the job offer. Work agreement, easy enough. Teachers, school administrators, all other school employees receive a letter of hire. And I know you all have copies of those or samples that you use. It includes, how much you're going to be paid, how many hours you work, when you get, what benefits you're eligible for, who you report to. It's a quick summary of that job description in a little more specificity. Okay? Now, then we've changed things a lot in the last year. I've had lots of conversations with all of your bookkeepers, and I'm never sure, we have bookkeepers who do all the hard lifting, right? And then we have the administrators, all of you, who know how it's supposed to be done. So I just want to make sure that the conversations flow from one group to the other. With the implementation of the Paycor payroll platform, say that real fast, new employees are onboarded directly through Paycor. They don't sit down and fill out a tax form. They don't have paper I-9s, none of that. The bookkeeper, and this is why it's so important, you have dialogue with your bookkeeper on an ongoing basis. You're going to have to give the bookkeeper your copy of the letter of hire. I've just extended a job offer to Sally Jones to be a paraprofessional, and here's the copy of her job offer letter. Then your bookkeeper will email Sally Jones an invitation to onboard. That applicant, now almost an employee, will go on to Paycor, establish a sign-in and a password, and immediately complete all of the pre-employment paperwork online. Check. There are 9 boxes. Then it will shift to your bookkeeper, who will open it all and complete the fields that the employee does not complete, and check hire, and they're done. In the system, ready for payroll whenever they start work. So you're not going to have paper files, and we've taught bookkeepers. I think they're all pretty much on board. We haven't had too many problems that I know of. So it changes, work you may have done in the past, but it does mean your communication to your bookkeeper has to be clear. Because if you don't let them know somebody's coming and when they're going to start, they're not going to get paid. It's going to take a couple of weeks to get everything set up. Oh, and then you have all those resumes. The pile over here. The Indeed people and the Outdeed people and everybody that sent you something. All right. But again, ignore them all. You're only going to respond to the applicants that you invited to the table. The ones you said you're being considered. Okay, and that may be all as far as it went, but you did reach out. Okay, what do you say to them? First of all, send an email. This is the preferred mode of communication these days, trust me. And your letter of hire, can it be emailed? Absolutely. Do a letter of hire, attach it to an email, get a signed copy back. Email back and forth. But when you're telling people you didn't hire them, short and pithy, like 2 sentences. Thank you for your interest. Another applicant has been chosen. Good luck. God bless you. May you have peace and blessings on your job search. If you know, something nice and churchy to end it. But that's it. Okay, nothing more. Absolutely nothing more. And I learned the hard way because I got myself in a jam one time. Something about thank you so much for all the time you spent with me, and I was delighted to meet you, and you have so many gifts. But another person, another applicant had just more experience that was appropriate. Well, I got a call. Tell me about their experience. Exactly what experience did that person have that I didn't have? And I'm like, oh, geez, don't go there. And they will call. They will call. I know that's hard to believe, but it's not unusual to be challenged about why did you make that decision? What didn't you hear about me? What did I say that made you think I wasn't qualified? That's the other line. What did I do? And that's how they rope you in, because it's the teacher, therapist mindset we sometimes have. They'll rope you in with, oh, I'm so disappointed. Can you tell me what I could have done differently to make my interview a success? Oh, I've heard that multiple times. Because then it's like, not my problem. I'm sorry. And I just kind of ignore it. I just let it go. I don't respond because I'm not going to get into that. What do I say? They say, and we go back and forth. No. And that's it. You will receive calls from others who have applied. I sent you a resume. I never heard from you. We were able, we've filled the position. That's all. We filled the position. We have filled the position. End of story. If someone calls and they're not on your radar, and don't go back looking for their resume because you probably shredded it by now. You're hired. But oh, wait a minute. You're hired. The world is happy. What do we do now? Well, now we want to terminate you. You've been here 3 months, and oh boy, nothing turned out the way I thought it would. Nothing is quite what I had hoped for. So, all right, how do I get out of this now that I've done it? Well, work agreements for teachers and administrators have very clear reasons to end a contract. I mean, it's very clear. But the one that gets a little sketchy is when we talk about work ability to do the job. How well they're doing the job. It's all fairly subjective in a lot of ways. You think they're doing not so good. They think they're doing great. Oh, if they're not doing great or they're doing good, doesn't matter. The kids are happy as clams, because everything is going fine in the classroom. So you can't look at a second grader and say, what's going on in your class. And of course you have some parents that aren't going to be happy no matter who you hire. So you've got that isolated situation where you have to make a decision. And I know all of you have been in that spot, and we've had conversations over the years about things like this. Take the time to spend time in the classroom yourself, do your observations, do your evaluations, and seriously develop a plan of action. There's nothing wrong with saying to someone you've hired and they've worked from September to the end of October, I see some things that I'm not satisfied with in your classroom. Well, what are those things? This, and this. This is what I need you to address. If you're going to continue to work here at Immaculate Conception, I need these things addressed, and by this deadline. But make it your observation, not a reactionary situation to other things that have been brought to the table. Yes, listen, but then do your own reconnaissance. Go in and really look at it yourself. A letter of hire is just as binding. Just because it's a letter of hire and just because it's an hourly position doesn't make it any easier to make a change in staffing. You really need to make sure there is a reason. There is no more 90-day probation. I still get calls. What about that 90-day thing? You know, can I fire anybody in the first 90 days? No. We did away with that years ago because it doesn't hold up in court. I mean, really? Really? 90 days? For 90 days, the employee is not sure and you're not sure. I used to see letters in the personnel files that, such as they were when I came to work for the diocese, where there were big celebrations at the pastoral center. You know, Amy Smith just completed her 90-day probation. She is now a real employee of the diocese. I'm like, really? The first 90 days you were doing training. How does it feel to take a job and give you the sense that every week may or may not be your last week? So no, we don't do that. We hired you. You should be able to do the job. We've done all our homework. Go to work. And if there's a problem, we'll deal with the problem. Georgia's an at-will state. Everybody knows that. It's Georgia. We can fire you. We can fire you just because we don't like you today. And you can walk in and quit just because you don't like me. Doesn't matter, we're at will. Well, not so quick. You know, employees are protected by a number of federal laws that absolutely overcome and step over the Georgia at-will state law. You're protected by race, by sex, by Americans with Disabilities Act, and the list goes on and on and on. And probably this is not politically correct anymore either, but I often would in training say the only person you can really fire is a white male 25 years old. But that's not very nice. But reality check, I mean, there's such a small compressed group that does not fall into some protected class that to assume you have the freedom to make a termination without documentation is just setting yourself up for a legal nightmare, which is why we talk about you have to have just cause. You have to have some documentation that indicates the person simply cannot, will not, or does not have the ability to do the job he or she was hired to do. Before you terminate anybody, please call me. The priests actually have this rule from the bishop, which most of them follow, sort of. Before you terminate a person, call me. We'll talk about it. We'll look at the file. We've had we had a couple of meetings over there in Macon, but it went down, didn't it? Worked out. Knock wood, we haven't heard any more. But it could have been a real problem. And Sister Cheryl and Liz Bishop called, and we put a game plan together because we were aware there was a situation that could be problematic. So let me help you. Let me do my job. You do your job. I couldn't be a principal of school. They wouldn't pay me enough money to do your job. But I'd be happy to do my job to make your job easier, or at least not as difficult. So let me help you through those terminating situations. You won't always like what I tell you. I know that. But we can develop a strategy, a game plan. We can get it done. And sometimes just getting the ball rolling helps. Are you okay if I talk about your situation with the dog?
Oh, sure. I'm like, which situation?
No, because Alice said, wait. Oh, wait, maybe that didn't come out right, never mind. Allison handled something so well last year because she had an employee in her office that needed a companion pet.
Thinks they need a companion pet.
And wanted that pet in the office with her doing work. And by law, by ADA, Americans with Disability Standards, we would really have to comply. But there are very clear rules about how that has to be done. And Allison called me right away, and I called our diocesan attorney, and he said, oh yeah, we can get this. And it was very good. You know, a professional letter to the employee, we're so sorry. Yes, we understand, and we want to help you, but this is what we'll need from you to allow this to happen. We'll need something from your doctor, and we'll need something. And we are really working to try to meet your needs. And that was sort of the end of it.
Yeah, I don't think you ever
Knock
did
wood.
anything.
Never heard another word. So, you know, that's how we can help. We can nip it in the bud and take that weight off of your shoulders, because you don't have time to worry about that stuff. You've got other more important things you've got to do. Okay, so we've done all due diligence, and you're going to have to terminate an employee. Don't ever do it alone. Always have a witness with you. Please have a witness. You may have the pastor with you, which is perfectly great. If they, you know, invite the pastor to be there, knows the background, will be part of, because what's going to happen if you terminate someone is they're going to leave your office and walk right over to the rectory and talk to fathers. So make sure father's in on the scoop and is part of the conversation, because now you're presenting a unified front. We are in agreement that this situation has to be handled this way. And if it has legal ramifications, you think there really could be some potential down the road, this person is not going to go quietly into the night, I'll be there. I'll come. We'll do it together. And there is something about the diocesan office being represented. The pastor feels a little supported, you feel supported, and it's sort of like we're handing it off. You're not going to, you know, calling me, calling father, complaining isn't going to help, because we've moved this to another level, and the diocese will be involved in working with you. So those are the termination issues. Let's see, what else we got? There's some things that don't have anything to do with terminating and hiring that still come up, and I just wanted, as long as I had the podium and I wasn't giving this back right away, bounce off a couple of things. I still get lots of questions about Family Medical Leave Act. All right, and I get them from the bookkeepers, and I don't know if you all are involved as principals in the situations of your staff who want to take Family Medical Leave Act. In a perfect world, a teacher would not go to the bookkeeper and say, I want to take Family Medical Leave Act. The teacher would have a conversation with you about a medical situation that's going to require that person to be off work for, an extended period of time. So if the bookkeeper gets the initial contact, that needs to stop, because he or she is not really in a position to decide. You know, Family Medical Leave Act has to be requested by the employee. We mandate it for anyone who is going to be off work ill for more than, say, 8 to 10 days. You know, I got pneumonia, I got the flu, I'll be back in a week and a half. We're not talking about that. We're talking about surgeries, we're talking about major illness, so we're talking about the big one, maternity. Maternity leave is not a protected status. We don't have separate coverage for employees who are expecting babies. So I find it amazing that there's this about filling out FMLA paperwork for an employee who's 8.75 months pregnant. It's like, you just found out? I mean, you know when you're pregnant, okay? Hello. You know you've been pregnant now you've known this for 6 months, and the rule is you need to file for Family Medical Leave Act, so get your ducks in a row prior to the last minute when we're running around getting doctors to fill out forms and bookkeepers to put things in payroll. So if you have staff meetings with your teachers and with your the people at your school, I would like you to put that on the agenda. that, we need to know. Now, obviously, there are situations, and we've had, unfortunately, more than one or two, where an employee went for a physical saying, just getting my annual physical, whoa, I've got to have treatment, I've got this, I've got that. Sure, we're going to work with you and we're going to get you set up and you're going to, we'll take care of you. But in those cases where something is looming, I'm going to have my knee replaced during Christmas break and I can't come back till January 30th, come on. Get your work done ahead of time and turn it in. We require, and by law we're allowed to require, employees to run out their paid sick time in conjunction with Family Medical Leave Act. And we had this conversation a couple of years ago, because otherwise you're giving 12 weeks and then the employee has another bank of 10 days. You have a teacher that's going to be gone even longer for whatever reason. I've had questions about, no, I don't want to do it that way. I want to take my sick time 2 days every week. I have 12 sick days, so I'm going to take 6 weeks of 2 days a week paid time and 3 days FMLA. No. You got 12 weeks. You're going to be off 12 weeks. You got 10 sick days. The first 2 weeks are paid. The next 10 are not paid. You can't pick and choose. It just doesn't work that way. As I said, your bookkeepers often get caught in the middle. I know they have relationships with the teachers, they're buddies, they've worked with them. And they're not really always good about delivering the hard, bad news. Sometimes they want to make everybody happy. So they'll call me, well, they'd like to do this. I say, no, they can't do it. It's okay. But I'd feel better if I knew all of you were caught in the loop and you knew what was happening, because it's your staffing. It's going to impact your school if somebody's going to be gone for an extended period of time. And when we've worked together, it helps. Yeah, Alex?
So how does that work if they're not getting paid for health benefits?
I'm sorry, I had to.
If they're not getting paid, how does that work for health benefits?
They have to pay their portion of the health benefit. The school pays the school portion while they're on FMLA. But if they're not drawing a paycheck, it's right on the form that they sign from Family Medical Leave Act that they will make arrangements with the bookkeeper, the school office, to write a check for what's normally deducted from their paycheck each month to continue the insurance. And they have to say that, it says something about arrangements will be made with, and we fill in the bookkeeper's name to pay for the insurance premium while we're out on medical leave. There has been some conversation by some of our younger teachers about the fact that we don't offer a separate maternity leave for teachers who are having babies, and we don't. And I know there are a couple of large dioceses around the country, and Raleigh in particular just implemented something where they have this parental maternity leave plan that they're offering to all their people. Have you heard that?
Yes.
I figured you had. We just don't have that. I mean, think about your school. Think about your staff.
Yes.
What would you do if we suddenly said, if you're having a baby, you get 12 weeks with pay. And if you're the father, you can have 12 weeks with pay. Because the one good thing about FMLA is it's unpaid, which means you have the salary dollars to pay for the substitute who's got to cover that classroom. So your liability for covering a long-term illness is the 10 days, and a few days they may have banked and carried forward, as opposed to unlimited. And your sub is going to make less than your contracted teacher, more than likely. So your budget will come closer to washing out. We just don't have the resources to provide that kind of benefit to everybody. And we couldn't just do it for the schools. If we did it for the schools, we'd have to do it for every employee in the diocese. and it's a very, very expensive option. So if you're not sure about FMLA, have a conversation with your bookkeeper. And we brought it up at the bookkeeper meetings, and we'll continue to bring it up. But again, it's not the bookkeeper's decision, it's yours on how that's to be managed. And I don't want them to get in the middle of something.
Joanne, can I ask a question?
And then the next question that comes up over and over again. Oh, I'm sorry.
What if one of our teachers' parents gets sick and they have to take off to care for them?
Well, you know, first of all, our sick days are allowed to be used to care for a family member.
Okay.
The other thing is that FMLA does provide, if you must be a caregiver for a family member, you can use Family Medical Leave Act.
But you can use sick days too.
You can use your sick days. Our sick day plan allows you to use your sick days to care for a family member who needs your help,
Okay, thank you.
which is very generous. A lot of places don't. And then that gets nothing, what is it, no good deed goes unpunished. Nothing is ever that clear, you know, because then we had a situation several years ago with a teacher, you know, who wanted to go spend time with her daughter who just had a baby, but the daughter was fine and the husband was there and she didn't have to care for the daughter, but she wanted to go spend weeks with her new grandchild. You know, we had to make some tough calls. Exactly, no, yeah. And we were the bad guys. But, you know, there's a reason it's there. You know, you may have very valid times. You need to use it. Don't take advantage. And bank your days. You know, I don't understand people who just arbitrarily take time off because they can. I mean, you don't want them in school if they've got the flu or if they're sneezing or they're truly sick. But just to take a couple of days off for sick time, and then when you need it, you don't have it, that's not wise either. And then the salaried, hourly question over and over. We talked a little bit about it with job descriptions. This is your Bible. I was going to put it on my slides, but Carrie Jane said you already got a copy yesterday. This is the guidelines for employee leave time. I would post this on my forehead. I would have it tattooed on my arm, and I would make sure that every bookkeeper has it somewhere where they can refer to it. It's really very, very clear who's salaried, who isn't. And once you know that, you know whether they are, the person or the position is salaried or hourly. So it is what it is. We've talked about paraprofessionals and teachers' aides being hourly. The latest glitchy thing is a professional position that's part-time. You know, I have a part-time development officer. Person has a college degree, they've got lots of experience. They certainly qualify under the salaried professional category by job duties, but they only work 15 or 20 hours a week. That person is hourly. The first criteria for salaried is full-time. Gotta be full-time, okay? Then after full-time, you gotta meet the salary threshold. And after the salary threshold, then you do the duties test. But even meeting the duties test, and even if you paid the person the threshold, you're paying her $40,000 a year, but she only works 20 hours a week, can't do it. It's got to be a full-time position.
From that, is that correct? Teachers have to be salaried even if they only work 4 hours a week?
Part-time teachers? Yes, if they're contracted, so they're paid a certain amount of money on their contract for the work they do. That's all you have to pay them. You have to track their hours. I thought you had a question. So I'm sorry, I'd like to change the rules. I can make it easier for you because you can put a set number of hours in the payroll system. Like if the person in that position is budgeted to work 20 hours a week, excuse me, put 20 hours in the payroll system, take the salary, divide it by 20, and put that in as the hourly rate. And every pay period, that person turns in a sheet or goes online and clicks 20 hours, and we're done. In other words, you don't have to have the person go in every day and say, I came in at 9 and I left at 10:45, and I came in at 1 and I left at 2:15. No, 20 hours is 20 hours. Now, just be cautious. 20 hours means pretty much 20 hours. Maybe it's 22 one week, maybe it's 18 the next. But if the person is seriously working over 20 hours week after week, then you need to address that and increase their budgeted hours. Yes, Alex?
So in the example you gave, the only difference between the two types of employees was whether or not they're full-time or part-time.
Correct.
So what makes teachers different, even if they work part-time?
Teachers by law, by the standards, the Federal Labor Standards Act, which is the driver, has a whole category called teachers. And that's your category. To be a teacher, obviously you have to be certified and you have to have certain qualifications. But if that person comes to teach for you an advanced math course for 5th and 6th graders, and you're going to work them 2 hours a day, 4 days a week, that person still has a work agreement, tells the hours they're going to work and the stipulation of the work he or she is going to do. That qualifies by Fair Labor Standards Act as a teacher. So the lump sum salary is put in there, and that's it. That's why. I mean, it's very clear. They've chosen to do that. Just like the government, that's so easy to blame the big people. But that's the same reason it doesn't matter how we see paraprofessionals or teachers' aides. They are what they are, and they're singled out in a clarity statement with very clear definitions, and they're hourly. So it doesn't matter what we call them. But that's why. That's exactly why. Yes, ma'am.
Can I ask a question off of this topic, but on another HR topic?
Pardon me?
Can I ask a topic that's not about
Sure,
this, that's HR?
absolutely.
It has to do with bereavement days. Is it 5 paid days per death, or is it 5 per year?
It's
Up to 5
per death.
per death. So
Okay.
if someone has a terrible year,
Right.
they could take 10, 15, 20 days.
And they're all paid.
They're all
Okay,
paid.
then how is that put into Paycor as far as time off?
It's not
Because
on
there's,
there.
it's
We put
not
it
on
under
there.
miscellaneous.
And we really, I feel like we need something in Paycor that,
Well, because Paycor has, not everyone uses bereavement. The accrued days in Paycor are those that everyone will get every year. Some people will never draw bereavement. So there is a way to go into the timesheet, like if you're a salaried employee and your only timesheet would show vacation or sick time, you would request that and it would drop it into the week you worked. That person can request bereavement and it will drop it in, but it's not already preset. So if you can mark certain days as paid bereavement leave on a timesheet for the employee, but it doesn't have its own little category, okay? But it is up to 5 days, which is the other thing you need to know. This employee handbook, not the teacher's handbook, I know that's different, that's on your webpage, but the employee handbook that covers all employees throughout the diocese. Used to be the diocesan handbook we had at the pastoral center, and we would just kind of let you use it. Well, it's been rewritten, and with the bishop's blessing, all the parishes and schools offer the same set of holidays, sick days, vacation schedule throughout the diocese. So the handbook is now posted on Paycor, and any employee in the diocese can go to their document file and read the handbook, and it will tell them bereavement leave and that they get paid every 2 weeks, and that our philosophy on sexual harassment and our policies on all of those things. There is an updated policy pages that are being completed now that will go on there as well for internet and social media, and some of those other policies are being current. But it's all available to people now to download from Paycor. Okay. Are there any other questions? I feel like I overstayed my welcome. But I'm glad to be here. And please call. I mean, it really gets boring in Savannah. I'd much rather come. Oh, she's lying. It's boring there. Give me a call so I can get out of Savannah and come and see you all. But thank you so much. And again, Carrie Jane will email you the presentation. Okay?
Perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much.